welcome to Just My Thoughts. I'm your host, Khaleel Ward, and on this episode, it's another retro review. X-Men animated series, season 2, another 13 episodes. Something I just been watching, during this whole quarantine thing. I decided to go back and watch a lot of old TV shows or old movies, and I was like, I might as well do another season 2, another review of X-Men. And again, I just loved this cartoon growing up. And for me, it still holds up. Season 2, it picks up kind of like, I want to say where season 1 ended. Again, this show was trying to be so ambitious and do so many different things. So, like how season 1 started with Morph and them losing Morph and everything like that. Season 2 opens up with Morph returning. Of course, Mr. Sinister has something to do with it. And Mr. Sinister is kind of a punk. He has the nasty boys with him, and he has to jump on Cyclops and Jean and everything. But then they get into a fight, and he just runs off like a little punk. He can't go toe to toe with Cyclops or like anybody. It's not like when Juggernaut showed up for the first time, he beat up everybody, and then they had to re-strategize. Same thing with like Apocalypse and something. Sinister just got like beat up real fast and then bounced. Then they try to again give everybody some story, like an episode or two. In the first season, it was like Wolverine getting a lot of different things. And then they gave Storm an episode in here, when she goes back home with her son and then the Shadow King. But they reference so many different things. Like they're like Professor X had a tough time defeating the Shadow King. You're like, when the heck did this happen? This didn't happen last season. So there's so much comic book stuff that they just leave out because they don't have the time to do every little thing. So you keep hearing like, yeah, Professor X struggled with this guy, and you're like, who is this guy? Who's this Shadow King living in the mountain guy? But the episode was cool because you get to know a little bit more about Storm. Like even Rogue didn't know what was going on. Then you have, I guess, what would be the main story for this season is like Professor X and Magneto get trapped. They fall into Mr. Sinister's trap. They go back to the Savage Land. And it's just like little hints that like, yeah, Magneto created us. And like, you're like, when did this happen? When was Magneto off in the Savage Land creating genetic people? And it's cool watching them walk around without their powers and seeing Magneto still has some fight in him and seeing Professor X walk around and just the two frenemies bonding essentially and hanging out. And then they throw in a Gambit episode with all this happening. It's like, they show like Professor X and Magneto, they get into like a fight, and then it'll go off to somebody else's adventure. So the Gambit goes back home. You find out about the assassins and the thieves, and I thought that episode was really cool. And again, people didn't know things about Gambit, and Rogue and Jean and Wolverine go with them. Like there's always like a weird mixture of people hanging out doing certain things, and that was a cool like episode, just seeing Gambit go back home and the responsibilities that he had growing up and seeing a little bit about his life. And of course they threw in another Bishop episode, added in some Cable because you got to have the time people together essentially. But they did throw in a little connection, with Cyclops and Jean with Cable. When Jean was trying to read his mind and she saw some stuff, about the future in terms of who Cable is related, and who Cable is to them. So that was cool. And then of course with Cable comes Apocalypse. And they trying to do all the kill mutants with the disease and stuff. And Apocalypse is the one who created the disease. And it was just cool to see that. And Cable kidnapping Wolverine, to fight the virus. At one point, I believe in like episode 8, they did use like the same footage when the guy was getting poisoned with the virus when he was trying to frame Beast for having the virus. They kind of like recycled the same footage, and I mean it's back in the day, so I'm okay with that. They managed to squeeze in a Rogue episode showing Rogue and her backstory and how she learned how to use her powers, and throwing a Miss Marvel reference, which I probably didn't get growing up, like who Miss Marvel was, but it's pretty cool seeing it again after all this MCU stuff and even the name change and all that. So that was really cool to see. Plus, they threw in a Mojo episode. Like, what? Mojo, his episode is crazy, just kidnapping X-Men and having them do weird different things. As a kid, I really enjoyed that episode. Now watching it, Mojo was very creepy and disgusting. Um, but I don't know. I enjoyed it as a child. And then to cap it off, they come back to Sinister like they did in the first episode, which was cool. Like in season one, they had the whole thing with the Sentinels, and then they ended it off beating up Sentinels. So this season still had some type of story arc. So of course, everybody gets captured by Sinister and the Nasty Boys, which is a cool name for a group of bad guys, and they can't use their powers. And then Wolverine, of course, the man, he doesn't get captured, breaks everybody up. They have a good fight against the Nasty Boys and all that, and it's really cool just seeing Magneto working with the X-Men, seeing them without their powers, seeing Rogue and Gambit getting a little bit closer, because they don't have their powers and she can get close to people. And again, I like this Cyclops. I like Cyclops when he's angry, he's a little mad, unleashing all his power. And Sinister, he looks cool, he sounds cool, he has some decent one-liners, but he's kind of a punk. He again didn't really step up to the plate. He didn't really do anything. He kind of got washed really quick. I know it was a whole group of them, but most bad guys knock somebody out, take somebody down. But he got washed really fast. But I enjoyed the last two episodes because it was action. It was all the X-Men together, doing things. So it was an enjoyable season. It didn't go off the rails. I'm gonna start up season 3. I know that one starts off with like Lady Deathstrike, which is cool. But so far so good. 2 seasons. Rewatching this show that I didn't really understand the episode structure growing up. But 13 episodes, season 2. If you watch it again, let me know what you thought. Did you enjoy it this time? Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? What were some of your favorite episodes from season 2? But I'll keep bringing you more videos. During this quarantine, I hope everybody's staying safe. And practicing social distancing and all that stuff. Call your loved ones, text some people, keep in contact, and thank you for watching. Deuces.